Hey everyone, welcome back. So today I'm going to discuss very important concept, okay? How to deploy Spring Boot application in Kubernetes here. Lot of people learn about what is Spring Boot, what is Kubernetes, what is Docker, right? But if you combine everything, if you have a Spring Boot application, how to deploy in Kubernetes, what are the steps you need to follow. Even in interview room also, they will ask you a question. Hey, do you know how, if you have a Java application, I want to deploy into Kubernetes, what are the steps required? Okay, you should be aware this concept clearly, guys. Today, from the scratch, I am going to explain you how to deploy application in Kubernetes, how to access the application also here. Anytime, any questions, please leave your comments in the YouTube comment box, guys. If you are interested, if you like our session, one like button, share to your friends also here. Okay, now let's start now. So, to deploy your application, what are the technologies or what are the tools required? If you say, when you say Spring Boot application, obviously you should have a JDK software should be required, right? Without Java software, you cannot develop your Spring Boot application. Then we need a to containerize your application, we need a Docker. And to deploy into cluster, we need a Kubernetes here. These three are the main important icons to deploy your application here. Just to have an idea, this is for a load balancer URL, and about this icon is cutting, but packaging your Spring Boot application using a build management tool like a Maven or Gradle. You can use any kind of solution here. Okay. Okay, let me start quickly here. First, to deploy a Spring Boot application, we need 6 steps involved here. What is the first step? First, we need to create a Spring Boot application, and we need to package your Spring Boot application using Maven software. Everyone knows how to create a Spring Boot application, right? So anyway, from the scratch, I will demonstrate you how to create and package our Spring Boot application. That is for the step one involved here. So you should have a knowledge on what is Spring Boot, what is Docker, what is Kubernetes. At least a minimum basic knowledge you should be aware. Then step two, we need to create a Docker image is required here for your application. Then we need to create Kubernetes deployment YAML file configuration, Kubernetes service YAML file configuration. Step 3 and step 4 is very critical, important role for deployment activity here. Then we will be deploying to Kubernetes and we can access the application. 6 steps are involved here to deploy your application in Kubernetes also here. Even in interview room also, easily you can explain, okay, we need to follow 6 steps to deploy an application into Kubernetes. You can explain here also here, guys. For any online training, if you are looking, just you can reach out to this contact number. You can ping in WhatsApp hi, and you can post your query also if you are looking any online training sessions as well. Okay, now here, see here, just for diagrammatic approach, we given one example here. Easily you can relate whatever I am developing in today's session here. If you see, you have an application. See, this is a Spring Boot application ready for deployment. That means you created an application, you done all the changes, and you want to deploy. That is the step one here. Now, next step is you need to containerize your application. Means you need to package application into Docker container here. That is about the second step here. Containerize your application. Now, third step, we need to configure. Means we need to create Kubernetes deployment configuration here. Step 3. Then we need to expose application using Kubernetes service. That is about expose our application. Then I need to deploy your application into a Kubernetes pod. These are the steps we need to follow if you want to deploy your application into Kubernetes here. Remember these 5 steps, okay? Then you can easily deploy your application into Kubernetes here. Okay. Now, what is the step one? First, we need to create our Spring Boot application. Then we need to build the jar using Maven. Either if you install Maven in your local system, by command prompt, you can generate the jar, or if you are using STS, directly you can generate the jar also here. And verify generated jar in the target directory here. Now we'll start about this step one to create our Spring Boot application here. Okay. Now let me open a workspace for you guys. Now I want to create a new Spring Boot project. Spring starter project I am creating. Okay. Now here what I will do, let me create one application Spring Boot hyphen Kubernetes. Just I am creating, this is my project name I am using. I am using Maven project jar. What is the version? And this is the group ID, artifact ID, and this is our package name. Now, right now, this Spring Boot application I am using 3.4.10 version I am using. What are the dependencies required? I need a Spring Web dependency is sufficient. At least we will create one dummy controller, and that controller will deploy into our application, and how to access will discuss here. Now Spring Web is sufficient right now here, and choose the next option and click on finish. Now your Spring Boot application is ready now. That means just dummy application just we created here. Now it is not ready to deploy. We need to follow couple of steps to follow this pattern. Let it complete. Even this version I am downloading for the first time. So let it download the all the versions in our Spring Boot hyphen Kubernetes here. Okay. Now your Spring Boot application is ready. Now if you run this specific application, which port number it is using, we'll try to see here. If you want, you can change the port number also here. Yes, right now it is running on 8080 port number. Okay, now default port number is 8080 here. Now your application is running. To access this application, what I will do, will try to create one controller layer. Okay, let me create a controller. Okay, maybe any kind of controller. Now let me do suppose hello controller here. Just I am creating one controller layer, and here at the rate rest controller annotation at the rate request mapping, you can provide like deploy, or you can write anything hello. Okay, and here let me write one method. I want to return some string, get hello, just I'm returning here. You can ring application deployed in Kubernetes. Just I want to display this message when you deploy your application into Kubernetes. This is a get API. Let me do at the rate get mapping here. Now, first, before running your application into Kubernetes, first we'll try to access this application from the browser, from the local system. Are you able to access or not? 8080 URL is /hello. Now open your browser and just type it here /hello. When you enter, now we got a message application deployed in Kubernetes through localhost I am accessing right now. By your application is running on in your STS here, but same application I want to deploy into Kubernetes. Those are the steps right now we are performing now. Okay. Now here, if you go for create a Spring Boot application is completed. Now we need to build the jar using the Maven. How to build the jar? Using this command mbn clean package. Using this command, you can generate the jar file for your application. How to generate? Right click on properties file, and there is an option called choose. Just you need to open your project into command prompt here. Now let me click here. In the top there is a command prompt here. You should install Maven, Apache Maven in your local system. Then you can able to work this command. For that you need to verify the version, Maven version here. Just I am checking mbn hyphen version here. I think it is taking time. Yes, see here in the C, I have a Apache Maven. Whenever you are using MVN version, it will display your Java version also, Java home directory and Maven home, both it will be display. Now you need to use mbn clean package. So what it will do? It will create a jar file for your project. Under which directory? In the target folder. Right now, target folder is not accessible here. See, it is slowly generated your jar file. See here, guys. Okay, and it is trying to generate a jar file for your application. You can run from the command prompt also your application also. See, build is a success. Now if you observe here, if you go to target folder, now see, this is the jar file for your application here. Now this is your application name. Right now we run our application through STS here. Now I want to run my application. Let me stop this application here. I'm stopping. Now your application is not running in STS anymore. Now clear the screen, CLS command. Here you can run your command cd target folder java hyphen jar spring boot here. Now you can run your application through command prompt also here by using java space hyphen jar space your jar name here. So see, your application is started 8080. Now also you can access your application also. See, you can access your application through command prompt whichever you are running, but our requirement is to deploy into Kubernetes. To deploy, we need to follow couple of steps here. Now let me stop this application now. So for as per for the side, now mbn clean package is completed and jar inside the target folder, your jar is generated also. So step 1 is successfully completed right now here. Okay. Now we'll go for the second step. Step 2, we need to create a Docker image for your application. So inside our Spring Boot application, you need to create a file called Docker file here. Before going to that, in the command prompt, I want to verify my Docker is running or not. Just let me verify. Now Docker version. Now Docker info command. Let me do. When you do, see, there is an error during the connect. So Docker should be running in your local system here. So let me open Docker desktop. Let me open this one. It will take a few minutes to start our Docker. If not, we'll try to see here how it is working. Still it is not open. Your Docker, yes. See, your Docker desktop is starting the Docker engine. So in your local system, Docker you should install here. If you install the Docker, Kubernetes installation is also easy in the Docker also here. Now let it start. Start the Docker engine. Okay, it is taking time in Windows environment. If you are using Linux or Mac, it is very, I mean to say, very fast running the Docker and Kubernetes in Linux-based systems. But in Windows system, it will take a time to deploy your application also. Yes, your Docker desktop is running here. Now visit our command prompt again, run your command docker info command. This time you should get an output. See here, there is a Docker server. How many containers are available? How many are running? How many stopped containers here? Like you can able to see the complete information about the Docker. Okay. Now, just for our information, you can type Docker images. If you get successful output means your Docker is running in your local system here. That is the meaning here. Already previously we done about running our e-commerce application in Kubernetes. Okay, right now you can ignore about the old images whatever I have in my local system. Okay, now what is the next step? I need to create a Docker file now. I need to create a Docker file. How to create a Docker file? Now, this is your Spring Boot project. Here, you need to create a file called file name should be Docker file. D should be capital case letters and remaining all letters should be lowercase letters here. Okay. Now that is about Docker file here. Now choose the finish. Now the Docker file should be root directory on your project. This is the standard in real time you should follow. This is the file. Initially it will display for you an error. Why? Because it is expecting to write some commands in the Docker file here. To run your Spring Boot application, we need a JDK is required. Now, how you can get the JDK? By using the from command. Now, you will get the open JDK 17 Oracle. This is the predefined Docker image. To run our Spring Boot application, I need JDK software is required. Now, inside our Docker container to run your application, I need a jar file. Now we have a command called copy command. See, the syntax will be source and destination here we should provide. Now, your source means inside your target folder, you have an application. This is the jar file. First, let me copy this one. Where is that? Let me copy qualified name and just keep it to here. Now your application is available under root directory, so this is not required here. So from the target folder, I want to copy your jar into destination. Destination, you can provide any name here, same jar name like a Spring Boot hyphen Kubernetes dot jar I want to provide. So this is the source location, and inside your Linux machine under root directory, your jar will be copied automatically when you build your Docker here. This is the copy command here. Now, the third step, whenever you are running Docker container, we can use one command called entry point here. Now here, the real commands you should write Java and here hyphen jar, and here you need to provide your jar name you should provide. Now let me copy and keep it to here. Now this is the syntax for the creating a Docker file here. Now this is the second step just I written for you guys. Now you can use any JDK. This is a Alpine is lightweight based operating system. That's okay. Now Docker file creation is completed here. Okay. Step one is completed. Under step two, now this is the Docker file creation. Now there is no errors in your project also here. This is completed. Now the third step, we need to build and publish. If you want to build and publish to your Docker Hub, you should have Docker Hub account is required here. So if you are not yet created, just hub.dockerhub.com. In this website, you can create your own okay Docker Hub account here. Let me log in. There is a free sign up process here. Once you are a logged in user in the hub.dockerhub.com, you will have a username. See, this is my username here. Whenever you are generating a Docker image, you need to tag with this username as well. In the real time also, whenever they are generating Docker images, cloud, okay, they will create a account, that specific username they will attach. So right now I want to attach, this is the username here. How to build Docker image for your Spring Boot application means, these are the steps. Docker, and there is a command called build command, and there is a hyphen t represents tagging for your Spring Boot application. With what name? With my username as Java Express, and this is for your application name. Any name you can provide here. This name and this name can be different, no worries at all. And this is our Spring Boot version, sorry, this is your application version, like a 1.0.0, 2.0. Whichever version you need, you can tag also. And the last called dot, this is called current working directory. If you miss this particular dot, this dot represents your Docker file here. This is the meaning here, guys. So try to write carefully. Each and every command is very important here. Now for that, what we can do, let me open our command prompt here, clear the screen, and I am in which place? I am in your Spring Boot hyphen Kubernetes. Here we have a file called Docker file you have. So wherever you have a Docker file, there you should run. You can build your Docker here. So here, see here, Docker. What is the next step you should perform? Build command. If you want, let me increase the font size for you. Docker build command hyphen T tagging. Now your username here, Java Express, slash your application name, any name you can provide, Spring Boot hyphen Kubernetes. This is my Docker image name here. And you can attach the version also here. Any version you can provide. Okay. 1.0.0. Okay, this is the version I am using here. Then dot is mandatory. If you miss the dot, it will not generate the Docker image for you. And enter. Now it will start creating the Docker image for your application here. You can run this Docker image through Docker container also, you can run also here. But our main target is to run our application into Kubernetes here. Now the second step is completed here. How to verify? Clear the screen and Docker images command. Using this command, you can able to see the latest image just now 25 seconds ago, around 767 MB, your Docker image size we have. This is our Docker image. Now your build step is completed. Now we need to push the command. Now you are logged in with the Java Express here. So you should be login here. to do, you need to use docker login. So it will ask you your username and password, and once your authentication is successful, login will be succeeded here. Okay, it will ask you your username and password, you should provide here. Once your login is succeeded, then you can publish docker push command. Now Java Express slash your application name Spring Boot hyphen Kubernetes dot 1.0.0. When you specify enter, your this specific image will publish it to your Docker Hub account. You can able to see here. Once your publish is completed, you can able to verify here. Even the same image, you also, who are watching this video, you can try to utilize this image also here. Now see here, you are unable to see anything here. Click on my repositories. See here, less than a minute ago, are able to see Java Express is my username, and this is my Docker image name here. Which version I done? 1.0.0. You can publish multiple versions also here. 2.0.0, 3.0.0. How many versions you want, you can use also here. When you see in the public view, if you want to utilize this Docker image in your local system, just you can run this command docker pull command, and this is the command you can use in your local system also. So step one and step you can, I mean to say, you can avoid in your system also here. That is about for the step two, creating Docker image here. Hope you are clear, right? Now two steps are completed till now here, guys. Okay, now next step we need to discuss about, we need to create Kubernetes deployment file. Okay, I'm not explaining what is Kubernetes, how it is working, what's architecture. No, this is main purpose is you should be aware what is Kubernetes. So whoever has an idea, those guys can easily understand step three step here, guys. Okay, and alternatively we have a complete course also we have. If you visit our javaexpressacademy.com, here we have a latest batch, last batch videos are available, like completely with our real-time Java project with e-commerce application, how you can develop microservices, how to deploy into Kubernetes. Around 4 to 5 hours of sessions we are spending to deploy our application. If you have a one application, how to deployment is easy, but when you have a multiple microservices, how to manage your configurations, how to deploy, everything you should be aware. In interview room you supposed to explain also. Whoever are looking, you can purchase this course and you can watch. Around the course duration is 50 hours we have total course, like a Spring Boot and REST API, zero to hero, and Java project, how to crack Java interview videos, like all the types of things also available here. Okay, that's for your understanding. Who are interested, you can take the course. Okay, now let me start about how to deploy our Kubernetes here. So in Kubernetes, if you want to deploy, for step three, we need a deployment file is required here. This deployment file will decide, okay, to run our application into Kubernetes here. So first in your local system, Kubernetes you should install. How to install? There is an option called settings, and left hand side we have a called Kubernetes, and here already my Kubernetes is running in my local system. If you see, there is a starting the cluster, let me verify. There is a kubectl also, you should install. Your Kubernetes working or not? Kubectl get nodes. If you specify, if your Kubernetes is running in your local system, it will give you the output. Now right now Kubernetes is not running in our system. There is some issue with this part. Now let me do reset the cluster. Let me do. It may take a time. Yes, reset anyway. Okay, it will stop the cluster and it will recreate your cluster here. It will take some time. Let it run this application here. Okay, in the meanwhile, now to deploy your application into Kubernetes, we need two types of files. One for the deployment file. See, whatever I am highlighting, this is a deployment file. Another file called service file. We'll discuss about the service file soon here. So whatever you are seeing, this whole content in the form of YAML file format here. YAML file here, guys. So we need to prepare this YAML file configuration for our Spring Boot application here, for our Spring Boot application. So do I need to remember this whole configuration? Not required at all. Just visit our website here, Kubernetes website. Just type Kubernetes deployment. When you specify, you will get sample deployment file configuration from the official website. See here, kubernetes.io. Just click here. And if you see here, if you go to bottom down, now they already given sample creating a deployment file. They are given. Just copy this one and open any notepad file. Okay, let me open a Sublime. There I can write my piece of code here. Okay, no. Now keep it to here. See, now we need to change this particular file. See, now metadata name. Now however you want, you can provide, you can change our application names and everything here. Now I want to deploy my Kubernetes. Just I am doing Spring Boot hyphen deployment file. This is the deployment file. Deployment file is used to deploy our application into Kubernetes. It will create the number of pods for your application here. And there is a label name. I don't want this label name right now. Just remove. Then how many replicas, how many number of instances you want to run your Spring Boot application? I want to run 2 instances of my application here. Then here there is a option called Nginx. Are able to see? First we'll try to understand about this part. So when you deploy your application, it is expecting what is your Docker image name. Now this is your Docker image name. Now this is my Docker image name here, Spring Boot hyphen Kubernetes. Okay, colon 1.0.0. This is my Docker image name, and any name you can provide here, maybe Spring Boot hyphen app. Now this is my name. The same name try to use everywhere here. Why we need means, later you will understand why. Because in Kubernetes world, the label names are very important for us. So for this label name, I want to create 2 replicas for my application. 2 replicas I want to create. Maybe here you can like Spring Boot hyphen label, so that easily you can understand. Let me copy and here also keep it to here. This label name is very important for us. Now what is the port number here? Now this is our container port number 8080. This is my container port number, means your Spring Boot port number 8080. And this is my Docker image name, and this is my name of the container, and this is for the replica sets. How many number of instances you want to run your application in Kubernetes? I want to run 2 replicas. Okay, I want to run 5 replicas, 10 replicas. Here you can decide here, and this is the name. Now your file is ready. Now copy, and what we can do, go to your application and inside here create a file. Create a file. You can use any file like a spring boot hyphen deployment dot YAML file format. Just type it here and just provide what are the commands you written here. Don't try to write it here. You may see some errors. So try to use any notepad file and try to your code from here. Now this is our deployment file configuration here. Hope you got it. The same thing here also available here. See metadata name, how many replicas, this is the label name, and this is the container information here. So if you see, if you divide into 4 steps, this is the step 1, this is for your step 2, and this is for the metadata information. This is the configuration common for every Spring Boot application. Not only Spring Boot, if any application is deploying onto Kubernetes, this template is fixed. You cannot change. Why? Because this is given by the official Kubernetes documentation. Same I am following here also here. Okay. This is for the step 1 Kubernetes deployment file here. Okay. Hope you are clear. Now, if you run this deployment file, straight away you cannot access your application anymore at all. To access this application, first we need to create another file called service file is required. YAML file configuration required for your Spring Boot application. This service will decide whether you can access, whether you cannot access the application here. So if you see Kubernetes service, now this is your service name. Kubernetes supporting service discovery mechanism. Right now, that is not the scope of for today's topic. And see here, now there is a label name. Here, your label name you should use. Your here port number, target port number here. Now, this is your container port number, and outside world anyone want to use a different port number, you can use this specific port number here, and type equal to load balancer. We are running our application into Kubernetes in our local system. When you specify type equal to load balancer, you can access using localhost. But the same service, if you run into cloud environment, it will create a load balancer URL for you. That load balancer URL, you can access your application here. So let me go to and just again try to search Kubernetes service file, and you will get the documentation. Choose the service and bottom down, and this is the service. Copy and open our notepad file, and try to keep it to here. See, this is our Spring Boot hyphen service. Here label name is important. What I am using right now, I am using my label name app colon. What is the label name? This label name. This service is creating for whom? For this Docker image. So the label name should be matched here. What is the port number? 8080 port number. Now, if you want, you can change to 8089, 8090, any port number also you can use. Right now, we'll go for positive use case, target port number, and exposing port number. I am using this same. Now, as it is, copy, right click, copy, and go to our Spring Boot application. Here, what we can do, create a file. Let me create a file. Here, Spring Boot hyphen service dot YAML file, and keep it to here. That's it. Now your deployment file is ready and the service file is also ready. Now this is the time you can deploy our application for the next step we should follow. Before that, verify our Kubernetes is running or not. Oh, starting the cluster. It is taking time to deploy our application. Let me reset the cluster. Okay. Let me verify. Reset the cluster. Okay. Kubernetes cluster, reset, delete all the stacks and resources. Let me do. Listed expose context is cancelled. New version is available. Why? Because it Docker also it is asking to install the latest version. Um, okay. Right now we are facing Kubernetes is not working. View details resetting Kubernetes. Okay, deployment we'll try to do in the next session. Till here, try to configure. I will come up with my system should be up and running for our Kubernetes. Then in part two, we'll deploy our application and how to access our application. I will explain you in the next session, guys. Okay, if anyone is looking for our online training, as we told, this is our contact number. You can reach out in WhatsApp for more details, or you can call directly also here. Okay. Thank you. If you till now, whoever watch till step 4, okay, just you can comment in the chat window. Okay, till now I completed. We are good on this one. If you have any questions, drop a chat window. I mean, it's in the comment box in the YouTube here, guys. Okay, so that I can do more and more videos if I get more responses here from the students. Okay, thank you guys, and we'll catch up in the next session. Thank you.